is Kalvin Garrah.
Kalvin Garrah.
Kalvin Garrah.
Kalvin Garrah. To Kalvin.
I can't believe I'm making this video, but here we are. You might be asking yourself, who is this Kalvin Garrah?
You have no idea, Kalvin, what it means to be a tranny.
In all seriousness, if you clicked on this video, you probably know who Kalvin is. I mean, he's pretty infamous at this point, I would say. But if you don't worry, that's exactly what I'll be covering in this video. You may be also asking yourself, okay, why are we talking about this now? It's been what? 5 years, 6 years, and it's pretty simple. Kalvin recently issued an apology, which reignited discussions about his past content. Oh my stomach just growled. And as someone who used to be a past fan of Mr. Garrah, I wanted to cover this topic a little differently than I've seen other video essays. I wanted to ask a broader set of questions like, why did I and so many other people support Kalvin in the first place? Here, wait, I have a little note card of all my questions. What led him to make this controversial content? How can we prevent narratives like this from becoming popular again? Why did people stand by him for so long, and what caused the shift in public opinion? Where is he now? Has he really changed, and ultimately, should he even be forgiven? So, I aim to provide a more comprehensive look at all of Kalvin's controversies because, like I said, there are many video essays out there about him, but they often leave out key details, and my goal with this is to delve deeper and provide a more complete picture given the tools that I have because Kalvin decided to take down all of his videos. Thank you, Kalvin.
No. Have them up for what, 5-6 years? But as soon as I'm trying to make my video, you take them all down?
Don't get me wrong. I'm glad he took down his harmful content. But also, it's like, man, did it make researching for this video a whole lot harder. Also editing, because it makes it harder for me to provide clips. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. So, how did Kalvin get his start? I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. Yes, I have a band-aid on my face. It's because I have a cystic pimple so big that even a pimple patch won't cover it, so I had to resort to that. Also I got my hair cut, guys. What are we thinking? Alright, okay, back to Kalvin. He began his online presence in the early 2010s, uploading to various different channels where he would show off his instrumental abilities or just post gaming content. Then eventually in 2016, he would later come out as transgender on his now YouTube channel, which marked a turning point in not only his personal journey, but his online presence.
I am trans, and I think the best way to put it is that when I look at myself, even when I had long hair, even when I tried to act in a more feminine way, it always has made me feel more comfortable to identify as male, to look like a guy.
Following his coming out, Kalvin became more active on platforms like Musical.ly, aka TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. But he mainly kept to Musical.ly, where he not only met a ton of other trans influencers such as Storm Ryan, The Jack Way, and Reagan Beast, but also posted really cringy TikTok or Musical.lys. Oh my gosh, Musical.ly.
I can't get you out of my brain. Oh, it's such a shame that we don't talk anymore. Barely even friends.
Anyway, Reagan later started dating another popular trans creator, Justin Blake, whose fame helped boost the group's visibility and reach. As Kalvin's following grew, he shifted his focus back to YouTube, producing transition updates.
I'm Kalvin, and this is my voice pre-T. Hi, I'm Kalvin, and this is my voice 1 month on T. Hi, my name's Kalvin, and this is my voice 2 months on T. Hi, my name's Kalvin, and this is my voice 3 months on T. Hi, my name's Kalvin, and this is my voice 4 months on testosterone.
Music covers.
I can change my mind each day. I didn't mean to try you on.
And lighthearted challenge videos with his friends.
Today we are doing another thrift store challenge. The last time I did one, you guys fucking loved it, so we're gonna be doing another one. What is going on? They got you! Garrah got assaulted by an 8-year-old. So 8-year-old boy, dead comes over to me, grabs my phone, and he throws it. He threw it like 20 feet.
However, his content eventually started to shift after uploading a video titled, "Why I Used to Be a Non-Binary SJW," which garnered significant attention and a largely positive response from viewers. This video marked the beginning of his transition into doing more anti-SJW content, a direction that would later come to define much of his online persona.
And all these cringy SJWs and detransitioners who do this, like, push the trans agenda back even more. You just make us look stupid. Every single time I've motherfucking seen a trender, they pick a name that's like Willow or like Zen. I'm gonna scroll through here, see if we can find anything funny as shit, because I'm sure there will be something. The SJWs always have something in store. What the f***? What the actual fuck? Truly, you guys want to say that my videos are bullying? This is bullying. This is dead making fun of something that people struggle with. Did you eat food in these videos to make sure that I don't end up having like an episode or like a heart attack or like something wild like that?
This brings me to my biggest question. Why? Why did Kalvin receive such an overwhelmingly positive reaction to his shift in content? And what even inspired him to take this direction in the first place? Through my research, I found a few answers, and one of those is Blaire White.
And then, like, I'm not gonna lie, if you didn't make the videos you did, I wouldn't have made the videos that I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah, definitely not. Because you were like you really like set the sail or whatever. I remember the first time I ever saw one of your videos, I was literally a sophomore in high school.
If you're familiar with Kalvin, oh, sorry, I'm moving my table. If you're familiar with Kalvin, you're likely familiar with Blaire. They were both kind of known as the gatekeepers within the trans community. But for those unfamiliar, here's a brief overview. Blaire White is a conservative-leaning transgender YouTuber and political commentator known for her critiques of left-wing activism, feminism, and aspects of the LGBTQ+ community. She launched her channel in 2015, but her popularity surged around 2018 to 2019, particularly following her series calling out Onision's disturbing behavior.
So when I see like Onision written on their hip bones, these young girls, and like girls in sports bras, and you know, I have actually the receipts. I actually have the archives of your forums up on my browser right now of all these girls.
You don't know their age, though. That's the problem.
You can tell. Yeah, you can actually tell by looking at them that they're extremely fun.
Actually,
and what you like to do,
I dated somebody who was 19 and they were not developed. So
I'm sure that's how you like him, Greg. I'm sure you like him very underdeveloped. But the point is,
and exposing alleged child predator Jessica Yaniv.
But because basically, what did I do wrong here?
You are a predator. You put women out of business who don't want to touch your dick. You message children inappropriate messages, and you make trans people look terrible. Like I said, your existence is measured only by the harm in which you do to everyone around you.
At the time, she garnered support from viewers across the political spectrum. I mean, who's really gonna get upset at calling out pedophiles? Things took a turn around 2020 when commentator D'Angelo Wallace released a video highlighting problematic aspects of Blaire's content and behavior.
The idea, the concept of Janae competing against biological women is ludicrous.
Turns out there was just one tiny problem with this particular video. The information that Blaire presented about Janae was just completely incorrect. Janae Marie Kroc does not participate against cis women in bodybuilding and powerlifting events. How do we know that? Because Janae was actually already famous too. She's a very prominent figure in the powerlifting world. So much so that there's a whole exercise named after her called Kroc Rows. The reason why this was blatant misinformation was because Blaire didn't just say it would be unfair for Janae to compete against biological women. Blaire said that she did compete against biological women, flipping back and forth between categories.
Janae actually went back post-transition and competed against men just because, I guess, like, it was kind of like, she's gone back and forth.
Even though this never happened, in making these responses, people found other things that Blaire had done. She had spread misinformation before. She seemingly lied about things that could be easily proven before.
I'll link that in the description for anyone who's curious. Following that, she saw a noticeable decline in support from her more liberal viewers. Her attempt at an apology wasn't widely well received, and instead of dialing back, she leaned further into conservatives' faces, ironically gaining even more followers as a result.
I think it's pretty apparent that society has reached the point where it's just kind of a wrap for the trans lunacy that has taken over the 2010s until now. Trump has truly, in the first 2 weeks, met the cultural temperature's energy and taken aim at the trans excesses, the excesses that have come out of trans ideology and the movement over the past decade or so, and rightfully so.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
I could honestly go on and on about Blaire, so let me know if you guys would be interested in a full deep dive into her career and controversies. To fully understand Kalvin's shift, we kind of have to ask ourselves, okay, why was Kalvin's and Blaire's content so supported? And it's pretty simple. It was kind of the standard at the time. In 2016, creators like iDubbbz is here. Wait.
Telling you, I have the mind of a master. I have the mind of a mastermind. What's that?
Leafy is here, and iDubbbz were at the height of their fame, and they created content far worse than anything Blaire or Kalvin ever put out. Mocking gender nonconformity, making fun of the 76 genders, and in general, just targeting marginalized communities was kind of the cultural standard at the time. Even for people who are largely seen as less controversial than Blaire or Kalvin participated in this, like Jaclyn Glenn or Shoe Head. And I know one of you guys is gonna argue in the comments, well, actually Shoe Head and Jaclyn Glenn are pretty controversial. Okay, well, they're way less controversial than Blaire and Kalvin. They don't have like 100 video essays made on them. Now that we understand how anti-SJW content was kind of the norm at the time and how both cis and trans people profited from it, we can better contextualize Kalvin's shift. Seeing some success and the success of others, Kalvin leaned further into his content until he eventually made a video on Brennen Beckwith. This situation is what Kalvin is most known for and marked a turning point in his online reputation. Brennen has since made his own video talking about his experience with it, and I highly encourage you to check it out, but if you don't, I'm going to break it down here anyway. So, in May of 2018, Kalvin made a video titled, "Trans Guy Reacts to Crazy Trans Trender," and in it, he reviews a video made by Brennen in which he goes over his gender dysphoria and how he copes with it.
The video we're going to be reacting to today is called My Gender Dysphoria and How to Cope with It. This video is a long time coming. This is my dysphoria and how I deal with it. Looks like Brennen here is going to tell us about her dysphoria, and I'm pretty excited to hear about it, especially with her cleavage out like that.
Brennen also had in his bio at the time that he went by airs pronouns, but that it didn't really matter. So Kalvin takes that as an invitation to call him she the rest of the video.
Turns out that it looks like Brennen is pansexual and gender fluid, uses airs pronouns, but you know, it doesn't really matter. So it looks like we're gonna be calling you she, because it doesn't really matter.
I mean, it's very obvious that Brennen being very comfortable with his chest triggered Kalvin. You can see it through his visible discomfort, eyes widening, heavy breathing.
99% of trans guys would not reference their chest as their boobs. That's weird.
My boobs. I remember hating.
Again, I just need to stop pausing this. I just need to let it go. But I don't know how long I can take this for.
Hating my boobs for whatever.
I hate that fucking video.
Still not flat enough. I hate it. And I can't. I can't breathe. And this wasn't.
I'm getting triggered. Like, honestly, this is like, I know you guys, like, honestly, people go always getting me, like, please stop using triggered, like, that really is a mental health term. Like, this is actually triggering my dysphoria.
It makes sense, though. Kalvin was only a few weeks away from top surgery, and he's been open about his severe chest dysphoria.
If you guys don't know, I'm a trans guy. I'm 17. I've been on hormones for over a year now, getting top surgery in 25 days. 25 days, yo. That's nothing.
It makes sense why he would be so angry and rude, but it doesn't excuse his behavior at all. it's like he was projecting his dysphoria onto Brennen, almost like a second-hand dysphoria. Is that a thing? Another factor that seemed to fuel Kalvin's anger was the fact that Brennen had been featured on MTV's True Life, which focused on genderqueer individuals.
MTV happened, and for those of you that don't know, I was on an episode of True Life, and it was about being genderqueer, and because of True Life,
She was on TV for millions of Americans to watch and look and be like, that's what those trans people are like. That's why Republicans fucking hate us.
Kalvin took issue with this, believing that non-binary identities were being platformed over binary trans men, which is just misplaced because the segment was on being genderqueer, not about being trans as a whole. So it wasn't speaking over trans men if it wasn't about them in the first place. In the MTV episode, Brennen receives his first binder, and after trying it on, he kind of realizes it's not what it's all chalked up to be. He said that he still wasn't flat enough and that no amount of binding or even surgery was going to fix that. That he would just have to accept his body. And Kalvin's response to this was by claiming that was ridiculous and asserting that top surgery does make your chest flat, and that's why he and so many other trans people were going to get top surgery.
binder came in the mail when the cameras were there. I put it on, and there's just one moment where I was in the bathroom. I remember just thinking, like, it's still not flat enough. And then I kind of thought, it's not gonna be flat enough. I kind of came to a conclusion then that I was gonna have to be okay with these.
My chest dysphoria will not just go away by me accepting it. No, it will not go away because this is not just something that I've made up in my head. This is something that is because my brain is different than my body, because that's the way being transgender works.
Binders or sports bras or even surgery.
What the fuck do you mean, sister? Listen the fuck. I'm getting top surgery in 25 days from now. I have a counter on my phone telling me every single day that I'm closer and closer to my own personal freedom, because you know what? When I get surgery, my chest will be completely flat. Flat. There will be no chest tissue. I won't have to bind anymore. So I don't understand what the on earth Jesus Christ Almighty she is talking about. Because top surgery completely flattens your chest. It is removal of breast tissue and masculinization of your chest. So you are just dumb to say that.
Which, I can agree. I think Brennen probably should have worded this a little better, because I hear this view often echoed by some pretty questionable people who are like, trans people shouldn't get top surgery because they should just learn to accept their bodies and that you can just get over dysphoria, which I don't think that's necessarily what Brennen was saying at all. I think it just kind of came across that way. I mean, obviously it wasn't true. Brennen has since gotten top surgery. Not that you need top surgery to be valid, but like, I don't know. I think it could have been worded a little better.
Hey, so I'm editing, and I realised that in all fairness Brennen was speaking from personal experience, and Dot made it clear that not all trans people felt the way he did.
Kind of want to sit like this now. Should I bring you guys in closer? So, moving on. Brennen expresses frustration over the fact that people assume he's never experienced dysphoria. I just realized I never actually explained what dysphoria is. So for any of you guys out there who don't know what dysphoria is, I'll try to give you a little rundown. So dysphoria is basically the discomfort or unhappiness that comes from feeling like your gender doesn't match your sex assigned at birth, and it can manifest in a lot of different ways, whether that be through certain body parts, clothing, or even just like how people refer to you. I mean, even Kalvin is a good example. He had severe chest dysphoria before he got top surgery, and once he got surgery, that dysphoria was alleviated. But yeah, so Brennen expresses frustration over people assuming he's never experienced dysphoria simply because he's able to have his chest visible. And he emphasizes the fact that dysphoria is internal and people can't know whether or not he has dysphoria based off of his appearance. And Kalvin's response to this is, I know enough.
When I see comments that say, because I show my boobs, I don't have dysphoria, I kind of get upset. These people on the internet don't know me.
I know enough.
Wait, this is my response to that, guys. Wait.
Well, what the hell? What?
That was so stupid. I'm sorry.
Well, what the hell?
That's so stupid. That's like if someone said, you know, even though I look happy, I've been struggling with depression for a while. And someone who isn't a mental health professional was just like, I have depression and I don't look like that. So actually you're a big liar. Actually, you're faking it. Actually, you're a stinky poo-poo liar. Stinky. Okay. Kalvin's response completely dismisses Brennen's personal experience. I mean, he quite literally says, you're not trans.
I will never believe for a second that you are transgender.
Simply because Brennen's personal experience doesn't align with his own, which only reinforces the fact that Kalvin's response was driven by personal projection rather than like a genuine critique. I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to speak over Brennen at all. So again, please check out Brennen's video. It will be linked down below. But I know a lot of you guys are lazy, so I wanted to at least summarize the situation. I forgot I have GERD, and I drank some water, and I'm just, I'm feeling it. So, recording's gonna be interesting. My bad. I told you guys. See? Oh, also, I watched Brennen's video on Labubu's recently, and it was so fun and insightful. And honestly, I feel like it didn't get enough attention, so here's me giving a shout out to that. Kalvin's video, Brennen was flooded with hate. I mean, Brennen only had around 2,000 subscribers at the time, while Kalvin had around, like, 70,000. His comment sections were spammed with cruel messages, and he was being relentlessly body shamed.
They downvoted all of my videos. They spammed my comments with things like, you're a transgender, you're bad for the trans community, you don't really have dysphoria, you're faking it, you're wrong, you're bad, you're ugly.
At one point, he was even warned that someone on his college campus was planning to harm him.
Someone once messaged me to warn me that someone else was plotting on their Tumblr to come and find me on my campus and hurt me.
Thankfully, nothing happened, but the fact that it escalated to real-life threats is insane. This is part of the reason so many people took issue with Kalvin's content. It didn't just criticize people, it invited dogpiling. And the thing is, when you have a significant following, you can't pretend your words exist in a vacuum. The way you frame your criticisms matter because your audience takes cues from you on how to react. What makes the situation more interesting is that Kalvin himself would later become a target of the same level of cruelty he once perpetuated. He too would be dogpiled, harassed, body shamed, creating an ironic cycle that speaks to the way online outrage operates. And someone who did a really good video on this is ContraPoints, so you should check that out. This video has literally just become, hey, you should check this out. Hey, you should check this out. I don't really care. You should check it out. After the video on Brennen, Kalvin went back to making more personal and lighthearted content, making videos like helping trans guys pick names.
I don't know why, but the first name that came to mind is Peter. I don't know. I like your glasses, by the way, and your hair. I can definitely see this person as a Peter. I'm kind of just going off of people that I know. So, like, I kind of know someone who looks like you that's named Peter.
Trans Guy Summer Survival Guide.
Today I'm going to be making a video giving you guys some summer trans guy clothing tips, passing tips, ways to avoid getting heat stroke tips, ways to avoid wanting to die because you're wearing a binder tip. Just your simple long length white GC2B binder. Now these retail for about $30, I think, around that, and you can actually find them cheaper on trans websites, giveaways. If you too are trans on a budget, I would check other sites where people sell used things. The only problem is they might be a little bit like loose and like stretched out, so if that's the case, get them wet or wash them and then dry them alone on the highest setting of your dryer, and it will shrink it and it will bind your chest better, but it will be very tight. I used to like that.
And sibling challenge, most likely to.
Most likely to skip school. What?
Together! Let me see one more. I'll find one more really good one.
What's ligma?
I knew you were gonna say. Lily is more likely to get ligma.
What is that?
I wanted to highlight that despite his very vocal anti-SJW stance and his video on Brennen, trans medicalism wasn't yet the central focus of his channel. He genuinely seemed interested in uploading personal and lighthearted content and helping his trans audience. However, over time, he became increasingly involved in trans medicalist discourse, a shift largely contributed to by the people he surrounded himself with. Speaking of controversial figures he aligned himself with, let's talk about Arielle Scarcella. So after Kalvin's video on Brennen, his platform grew even further. Oh no, I didn't close the door. Margot, what do you have to tell the audience? Oh, she's purring. I don't know if you can hear it though. So after Kalvin's video on Brennen, his platform grew even further and eventually caught the eye of Arielle Scarcella. Arielle Scarcella is a content creator who gained recognition as a lesbian YouTuber, known for her LGBTQ+ education.
But this notion of Egyptians' third gender does show how gender and the idea of it can change throughout history and cultures. Remember guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it on Facebook and Tumblr to educate the world of LGBT history.
And positive content. However, over time, she shifted toward a more critical stance on modern progressive movements, particularly surrounding gender identity. Before diving into Arielle and Kalvin and how they started working together, it's important to understand why Kalvin would align himself with her, given her controversial views on trans people. There were two major motivators: admiration and spite. First off, Kalvin had been a huge fan of Arielle for years, even before transitioning, when he still identified as a lesbian. So he saw her content as educational and influential, and she had platformed other trans people in the past, so maybe some of the more ignorant things she said was just due to a lack of education or being misrepresented. The second motivator was Kalvin's ongoing conflict with another YouTuber, Chase Ross. Chase Ross is a Canadian YouTuber, speaker, and advocate known for his content on trans issues, gender dysphoria, Packers, and mental health. Kalvin was initially a fan of Chase and actually learned a lot about transitioning through his content. However, in 2018, Kalvin made a video criticizing some of Chase's views, aka the fact that Chase wasn't a trans medicalist, or it wasn't the fact that he wasn't a trans, it was the fact that he was a too cute. So let me explain this whole thing. So there's this whole conflict about being trans med and too cute. So being a trans medicalist is basically the belief that in order to be trans, you need to have gender dysphoria, and too cute is the belief that you do not need dysphoria to be trans. So Chase Ross was a too cute, and Kalvin saw this as harmful, so he started calling him out. It seemed like a standard disagreement, but Kalvin's videos started getting flagged and removed, and after receiving 3 strikes, his channel was ultimately deleted. Surprisingly, Chase reached out to Kalvin during this time, offering resources and contacts to get his channel reinstated. He even told Kalvin that, despite their differences, no trans person deserved to be deplatformed over a difference in opinion. And Kalvin's channel was put back up. But, and it's a big one, this is where things start to get a little interesting. So Kalvin later discovered through mutual connection that Chase had allegedly orchestrated the mass flagging of Kalvin's content. According to these claims, Chase had encouraged all his friends to go and mass report Kalvin's videos, only to later extend a helping hand.
Spoiler, Chase Ross is the reason that my channel got deleted. After I made the video about him, was mad at the backlash that he was getting, Chase decided to send his friends on a mass flagging spree so that Chase could then swoop in, get my channel back, so that I would stop talking about him.
This revelation pushed Kalvin further away from more mainstream trans YouTubers and into the orbit of Arielle Scarcella, who had a long-standing beef with Arielle. Collaborating with Arielle wasn't just a career move, it was also a way to get back at Chase, knowing it would frustrate him even more.
In the old days, we just called it being a tomboy. Yeah. Or just being a woman who liked to dress more.
Adding just another layer to this mess, there were rumors at the time that Chase used to host hate-watching parties of Kalvin's content. What? I'm sorry, I know I keep referencing Buck Angel. It's just, I'm gonna get into Buck Angel soon. It's just, man, that whole thing is just really, it just is funny to me. It's funny. Kalvin was certainly known for being inflammatory, but it's undeniably strange that a 28-year-old man would host hate-watching parties for a 17-year-old. Apparently, Ash Hardell, another trans creator and friend of Chase Ross, was invited to one of these hate-watching parties, but was like, dude, that's weird. I'm not participating in what? So shout out to you, Ash, for being normal behind the scenes and, you know, not being a freak who liked to like host entire parties or whatever to make fun of a teenager. Like, we all know Kalvin's a bully, but like, how does that logically make sense? Oh, this teenager's a bully, let's go bully him behind the, like, what? That's so weird. So before fully diving into Arielle Scarcella's role, I know some of you might be thinking, there's more people involved. Yes, I know. Or you might be saying, okay, just get to Arielle already, like, but I need to get context first. These creators weren't just involved with Arielle, they played a larger role into a lot of other Kalvin's controversies. These YouTubers were part of a much broader ecosystem of trans discourse on the platform, and their interactions with Kalvin helped shape much of the narrative. One of the most significant figures in this story is Storm Ryan. If you recall from earlier about Kalvin's Musical.ly days, you'll probably somewhat remember Ryan, who has been there since the very beginning. Storm Ryan was a YouTuber active from 2016 to 2021. He rose to prominence around the same time as Kalvin in 2018, thanks in part to their strong on-screen chemistry and frequent collaborations. Like Kalvin, he created trans medicalist content, including trender videos, which contributed to his early success. However, Ryan ultimately branched out more, expanding his content beyond trans-related topics. He explored his interests in art and clothing alterations, and while Kalvin's audience remained largely within the trans and commentary communities, Ryan's content, especially his videos with his then boyfriend at the time, Aaron, helped him gain a broader LGBTQ+ audience. Miss London was another notable figure within this online scene, known for her close connections with Kalvin and Ryan. On her channel, she mainly posted anti-SJW content and was known for looking up to Blaire White, which wasn't uncommon at the time, especially for young trans individuals seeking some type of representation that felt normal within online spaces. Though her audience was considerably smaller than Kalvin and Ryan's, she still played a role in the broader conversation. From 2017 to 2019, she became an active voice in the trans YouTube discussions, particularly around trans identity and trans medicalism. She also popularly collabed with Ella Grant, another trans med YouTuber with a modest following. Additionally, she interacted with Sam Collins and gradually shifted her focus to calling out TERFs. Speaking of Sam Collins, he is arguably the most prominent YouTuber among his peers. Unlike Kalvin, Ryan, or London, his content had a much broader appeal, blending commentary, humor, and general LGBTQ+ topics. He first became friends with Kalvin and Ryan during their Musical.ly days when they were touring, and continued collaborating with them into 2019. Through them, he later connected with London, featuring her on his channel, and even doing a meet and greet with her. While he often seemed to align with their views, he took a more passive approach. Sam also had a friendship with Arielle and even made content with her, though most of it has been taken down. Over time, he distanced himself from transmedicalism and even made videos critiquing Arielle and Blaire. However, he has never directly addressed his past involvement with her and has even at times outright denied ever even being friends with her.
Here is one of the friends that I lost. He had something to say about me in last week's video.
Anyways, I used to be acquaintances of Arielle Scarcella, so not a friend by any means. I was friends with a transphobe, Arielle Scarcella.
Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm finally diving into the whole Arielle Scarcella situation. Arielle first reached out to Kalvin when he was 17, and the two had a call discussing various different topics, one of those being trans issues. Then, excited about the interaction, Kalvin later told Ryan about it, and Ryan was basically like, hey, can you like connect us? Especially because Playlist Live was about to happen, which, for any of you who don't know, Playlist Live is a major YouTube convention in March of 2018, and Ryan was planning to attend, and so was Arielle, so he was like, this would be a great opportunity for us to meet up. However, this is where things start to get weird. So, while they were talking about collaborating, Arielle brought up the idea of Ryan showing his bottom growth to her, and it was framed as like educational, like, because she saw a trans woman's bottom
Thinking.
area after she had surgery, and she would see Ryan's. But the weird thing is they were talking about this when he was still 17. And although Ryan has since clarified that he was 18 at the filming of the video, and that he does not think Arielle is predatory in any way, it is still really uncomfortable. I mean, even Ryan has said it makes him uncomfortable as well, because it brought a lot of cis people and TERFs to his page, flooding his comments with just weird, overly sexual comments. Regardless of intent, this entire situation raises serious concerns about boundaries. Arielle was 32 at the time, and as an adult content creator with a sizable platform, she should have exercised better judgment. Even if the discussion was framed as educational, it was highly inappropriate and demonstrated a lack of awareness about audience impact and power dynamics. In July of 2018, Ryan flew out from Florida to Maryland for his annual meetup with Kalvin. Arielle saw this as an opportunity for them to collaborate and arrange for them to meet. She rented an Airbnb specifically for filming, and everyone involved, Kalvin, Ryan, and London, were 18 at the time. During their time together, they went on a hike, got lunch, and took photos, some of which are still available on Kalvin's old photography Instagram. Afterwards, they returned to the Airbnb to begin filming content for Arielle's channel, much of which was documented on Kalvin's video titled The Truth About Arielle Scarcella, which followed a documentary-style video similar to like Shane Dawson's content at the time, because that was kind of the trend. Everyone wanted to kind of be like Shane, which is kind of embarrassing looking at it now. Kalvin's goal was to get Arielle's candid thoughts on trans issues on camera, because at the time she was facing heavy criticism from the trans community.
I would say the majority of the trans community thinks Arielle's transphobic, and so when I first met Arielle, I was definitely a little bit, skeptical about her views. Like, I was really worried that she was transphobic, so I approached talking to her really, carefully, and I think what I learned from being friends with Arielle now she's flying out here, is that Arielle, number one, is not transphobic. Do you think Arielle's transphobic?
Absolutely not.
Hell no, bro.
Arielle is not transphobic. Do I think that she could word things she says a little better? Yes.
Just in more than 140 characters.
Yes, and that's exactly why I'm making this video, is because I want to show you guys how f***ing cool Arielle is. That's, and obviously Arielle hasn't asked me to do, we're just going to film fucking regular videos talking about sex stuff, because
that's what
you do when you turn 18 2 days later.
In the video, Kalvin asked her questions submitted by his friend Jack, the one from his Musical.ly days, who was openly critical of her content. One of the questions was, why do you talk about trans people so often? Arielle basically responded saying that if she was going to accept trans women as lesbians, she felt it was necessary to include them in her videos and in conversations.
Most of these actually come from my friend Jack, who I know that you guys have a little bit of turmoil, but I want to give you a chance to explain your views without somebody else immediately coming for you. Because, the first thing that he asked was why you feel the need to talk about trans people so much.
Because I think that they're an underrepresented part of the community. And I think that as a lesbian, and if I'm going to accept trans women as lesbians, I think they need to be included in the conversation. I think I need to make videos about them. Or with them.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah. Don't like that people like Chase Ross and Kat Black and Riley Dennis are representations of the trans community at large, and I don't want to feature.
Trans, is she? No, she's not trans, is she?
Kat Black, yes, she is.
FT, no, FT.
Male to female.
I thought she was cisgender.
You thought she was cis? She's a trans girl. She's
what?
Kalvin also brought up his discomfort with some of her previous statements, one of those being her comparison of trans men to lesbians. She clarified that to her and many other cis people, visually, trans men and lesbians appear similar, especially for trans men who are pre-medical transition. But the distinction lies in identity. She expressed her frustration that people often took offense to her first statement without hearing her reasoning.
This is another one, and honestly, like, to be real, this is something that you tweeted today that did upset me a little bit. It was something that I think, but to be fair, it's something I feel like I asked you about, and then when I talked about it, I was less like, okay, like, that makes a little more sense. Why has she repeatedly compared trans men and lesbians, both her tweet from yesterday and in the past, that butch lesbians and preachy trans guys look the same? It seems unnecessary and invalidating comparison for many trans guys and can increase dysphoria.
I compare them in the video that he's referring to, I believe.
Yeah.
I think the video was called "Are Butch Lesbians Trans Men?" or it was something, I don't remember the exact title, it was like 3 years ago, I can't remember. But in that video, the reason I make the comparison is because visually, a lot of them will look the same at first.
Yeah.
And to a cis person, that's all they're going to understand is visual, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I said, listen, they might look the same, but the difference is the gender identity is very different.
Yes.
And you need to respect that person because their identity is different.
Yeah.
That's what the video talks about. Whether he watched it or not, he probably didn't. He probably saw it, got dysphoric, and turned it off. But that's the problem.
While this whole interview was going on in the living room, in the bathroom, London and Ryan filmed a video. The video, which is still on her channel, just talked about transition experiences and some of their opinions on genderless children.
Genderless babies.
That's it.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
That's me too, though, because, like, I was saying this earlier in, like, my other video that, like, it's okay to be trans. It's okay to be born male or female at birth and then trans fucking later.
Did you start estrogen?
15.
I started testosterone like 2 days after I turned 17.
School sucked.
School was the worst. How was being trans in school?
Especially in middle school, it was really bad because people were like, you cut off your attention, like, they would push me and make fun of me. I was like, it's like that. How about you, though?
The same way. I got the shit out of me in high school. I was outed to my mom.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, high school was the worst.
Right?
Outro is.
Anyway, thank y'all balls so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you do. And I'll see y'all's balls in the next video. So much for watching.
She gets so excited at the end of the beginning of her video.
I cannot be that hyped. Like, sometimes after my videos, I have to just sit down and be like...
Together, the group filmed a lot of videos, and most of which included London. These included a discussion about a non-binary individual where both Arielle and London expressed confusion. Arielle took a more, I don't understand it, it's weird, while London at least seemed like she was trying to, while respecting their pronouns. A controversial video titled, "Trans Women Are Male," which Kalvin, Ryan, and London strongly urged her to rename. She eventually changed it to "Trans Women Aren't Female," where she and London expressed the difference between being female and being a woman. A video focused on London's bottom dysphoria, which is weirdly still up on Arielle's channel. They don't have videos with each other up, but we'll get into that later on. and a video titled "Gender is Not a Social Construct" on Ryan's channel. There's probably a lot more, but that's all I could find at least. In their final video on Arielle's channel, it included all 3 trans creators in it, and it was basically Arielle reiterating the fact that she saw Kalvin and Ryan as men, but still ultimately as female, and London as a woman, but male. She insisted that stating these biological facts shouldn't be considered offensive, and saying otherwise was damaging to the trans community. Which is like, girl, you're not trans, so... Also, I don't have many clips from this video. I mean, it was hard enough to find Kalvin's documentary. But one thing I remember at the time when I watched it was the fact that Kalvin seemed really quiet in it, which is weird because I think we're all well aware that Kalvin's kind of a loudmouth. He later said in 2020 it was because he didn't fully feel comfortable with the things being said in the video, and that when he would try to speak out in the video, like, in any way, if he disagreed, she would end up just cutting the footage, which becomes more relevant when we dive into that later on. Anyway, back to Kalvin's documentary-style video. He asked a few more direct questions, one of those being why she felt the need to focus on trans people's genitals so heavily, and she responded saying that she's focused on everyone's genitals and that her entire channel was about sex education.
Why are you so fixated on trans people's body parts?
Because I'm fixated on everybody's body parts. I've done videos about dating since I started making videos in 2009.
I'm not gonna get too much input because I just want to get like her
I can understand if I were just talking about plants and then I just did a video about trans people's genitals.
Yeah.
Then I can see why people would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But my videos are about dating. So.
Yeah.
Another question addressed her repeated videos on dating preferences and why she felt the need to reiterate over and over again that she would not date a trans woman. She basically responded saying that she would date a trans woman if she was post-op.
Not all lesbians wouldn't date a trans woman. Like, you're not speaking for all lesbians, whereas
No, I'm
like
speaking for me.
not all straight girls wouldn't date a trans guy. Like, my
Right.
girlfriend is straight and she's dating me, so I feel like that's another thing.
I would date a trans woman if she were post-op. Yeah.
See that right now? You're not trans.
I don't know.
But you find them
But I'm
attractive.
Which is, it's kind of funny. Kalvin is like he's like, I did that. I convinced her, which is kind of sad because, you know, Kalvin, Ryan, and London were teenagers trying to convince a 32-year-old to not be transphobic. Kalvin also documented their way home and how they felt about the entire experience.
Okay, so we just left Arielle's house, as you guys could see from the last clip we were leaving, but I wanted to get you guys' opinion on like what she was saying and stuff, because again, I want to keep this series unbiased. I want to really like, you know, obviously we're all trans.
They all admitted that they all once looked up to Arielle, and it was disappointing to see her fall from grace. They acknowledged that while she had made offensive or misinformed statements in the past, that they too have, you know, regretted things that they have said or misspoken. Their shared takeaways was that Arielle was not transphobic and that they were glad that they had an opportunity to educate her and help her gain a better understanding of what it means to actually be trans.
I want to help her bounce back from all these like accusations.
She used to be so up there. She used to like have so many views and such a following, and like people who like loved her for her, but then like her words, she said something stupid, her words got twisted, and then she educated herself.
And to be fair, like I've said some mean shit to people before.
I have too.
We all have, but like it's when she says stuff that isn't exactly like accurate or very politically correct that people are just like, oh my god, she's terrible, she's transphobic. It's like, no, she just slipped up, and I think she slipped up, honestly. Like, I'll be blunt, she did kind of like slip up, but
yeah,
I'm not holding it against her. I fucking said bad shit too.
I definitely want to like educate her. That's what I've been trying.
I think we've done a good job of doing that too, but like
this is the squad. Like this is the fucking squad.
This is yo.
And on that note, I think I'm gonna end the video here. The video is almost like an hour long, and I still have a lot to go over, so I think I'm gonna have to make a part 2. In this part, I covered the basics, who Kalvin is, how he got started, the people he was involved with early on. But in part 2, I'll go over the people he made videos on, like the period prince, Onision, that's crazy. Every time I say Onision, it feels like a curse word, like I have to go, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, his video on Elliot Fletcher, yes, the actor. I don't know how he got in drama with everyone, but goth fruits, and finally, I will dive into the whole Buck Angel situation. I might go over even more, but it kind of depends on, like, if I have enough time. I should be able to. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below how you feel about my video, how you feel about Kalvin in general, and please subscribe to the channel if you want to see part 2, and put on the notification bell so you're notified when I post part 2. And yeah, thank you so much, and peace.